Hi, and welcome everyone to the Bitcoin for Business Masterclass with Deskera and OpenNode. I am so glad to have our cryptocurrency and Bitcoin expert, Julie, who is the head of growth at OpenNode. And we will be going through quite a few topics related to Bitcoins and cryptocurrency and using it for your business today. Um, so some of the burning questions that we have received and I also have are like, okay, so what exactly is Bitcoin and blockchain and how does it kind of work together to make it more secure? And what are the benefits of using, Bitcoin for your business? Is it fast? Is it faster than, for example, using, regular cash or currency, etc.? And we have got Julie to answer all these and a lot more. So Julie, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine, Saurabh. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's quite early. It's about what 10 a.m. UK time right now.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
not bad.
Wonderful. So glad that you are able to join us today, and we have quite a lot of questions on Bitcoin and crypto and using it for the business. And so, without further ado, I'll hand it over to you to take us through the Bitcoin for Business masterclass today.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present. So today, we're really talking about the fact that Deskerra and OpenNode have partnered to add Bitcoin payment acceptance for Deskera invoices. Wanted to start with a little bit of background on why OpenNode works to enable Bitcoin payments. We believe that Bitcoin connects an increasingly decentralized and global world. Bitcoin is monetary technology. You will have heard about the great performance of Bitcoin as a digital asset. It's also the native currency of the digital economy. Bitcoin is scarce, it's auditable, and like digital gold, it's easy to transport, store, and divide. But Bitcoin is also a payment system. And as a payment system, it has a couple of properties that make it, we think, the best payment system the world has ever seen. The payment system is secure, payments are instant, the per transaction fees are very low, and transactions are borderless. A little bit more background on Bitcoin. We think of the Bitcoin network as a new base settlement layer for the world. In terms of basics, you will have heard about a blockchain. A blockchain is basically a database that stores data in groups, also known as blocks. The Bitcoin network uses a blockchain to organize its data and to track all of its historical transaction processing. And the Bitcoin network is composed of tens of thousands of computers called nodes. How it works is that Bitcoin's blockchain is write-only, it's trustless, and decentralized. To maintain consensus, nodes independently validate transactions. And finally, the Bitcoin network is secured through cryptography and distributed technology. So the really huge innovation here is that the world now has a decentralized, distributed network that can instantly agree on the validity and the security of a payment and settle it instantly and at very little cost. OpenNode supports a protocol called the Lightning Network, which we think of as the transactional layer for the Bitcoin network. The problem with the base layer is that transactions confirmed on the Bitcoin base chain can take up to an hour before they are final or irreversible. That's not bad, but for retail payments, it's very difficult to kind of stand around and wait for that confirmation to take place. Small, high-volume payments can also attract outsized fees on-chain. The solution to this scaling problem is the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is a second-level protocol that allows Bitcoin to scale by abstracting some of the transaction processing to what we call a second layer. Individual Lightning nodes transact using private bidirectional channels, and Lightning Network Bitcoin transactions settle instantly for fractions of a cent and are then reconciled to the base chain in batch. In this way, Bitcoin can be used to transact without requiring interaction with the base chain for every single transaction.
So I have a question here, Julie. So because Bitcoin transactions are kind of irreversible, right? Now, what if somebody makes a transaction that that they made by mistake, for example? Then how would they handle that scenario?
Sure. So that's a great question, actually. The interesting thing about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is what we call a push payment, meaning it is payer initiated. In the traditional model, a pull payment is where a merchant uses your payment method data to access and pull funds from an account. So first of all, the chances of errors are lower because you have payers who are actually initiating and authenticating the transactions. This also, by the way, negates fraud in this model. It also negates the need for chargebacks. However, like in any kind of payment system, there are mechanisms that allow either the same transaction to be initiated kind of in reverse, except it's a separate transaction. It's not reversal of the initial transaction. It's just a new transaction that offsets the first. And of course, there are refund processes that can be built on top of a Bitcoin payment system. It's just that because Bitcoin does not need to solve for the flaws of pull payments, we don't have fraud or chargebacks built into the system. They are not a base requirement for payments. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, understood. Thank you so much for explaining that.
Sure. So I just told you a bunch about the Bitcoin network, the Lightning Network. The great thing is, nobody actually needs to know the intricacies of how this stuff works, except to be educated to the point where they understand enough to trust the system. The more important aspects of these payments are the commercial and operational benefits for businesses. Number one, Bitcoin payments provide the best economics. OpenNode charges 1% global transaction processing fee for transactions. As I just mentioned, there is no fraud and there are no chargebacks. Bitcoin payments optimize cash flow because settlement is instant on the Lightning Network. Settlement is near instant when transactions process on chain. Bitcoin payments are global. Payments are borderless and interoperable, meaning that businesses can take payment from anyone in the world with very little friction. And number four, and this is specific to the platform that OpenNode provides, we allow merchants to take controlled exposure to Bitcoin. So merchants can accept Bitcoin, get all of the benefits of Bitcoin payment processing, instant, low cost, but settle in their preferred currency. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So who's OpenNode? OpenNode provides Bitcoin payment infrastructure. We leverage Bitcoin's monetary system to deliver the benefits of the Bitcoin payment rail. And we've now partnered with Deskerra to power Bitcoin payments for invoices. So I'll go into a little bit about the OpenNode platform, the partnership with Deskerra, how people can connect OpenNode to their Deskerra account, and then we'll look at the process flow for a Bitcoin transaction. Saurabh, did you want to pause and have a look at whether there are any questions so far, or should I continue?
So far, I do not see a lot of questions coming in, so I think we can continue. But I think the one point that people would be interested in, I'm super interested to know about, is using Bitcoin with your preferred currency, and hopefully,
Sure.
we can spend some more time on that.
Absolutely. Yep, we're going to go into that.
Wonderful.
So a couple of things that we're going to go through: OpenNode's unified Bitcoin processing infrastructure, our Bitcoin payment stack, automatic conversion and preferred and settlement in preferred currency, the business dashboard, and easy setup on Deskerra. So OpenNode provides access to the Bitcoin payment system. By partnering with distribution partners like Deskerra, we are able to offer these capabilities to businesses and merchants. Our platform is composed of 4 core components. We enable settlement. We talked about the difference between settlement on-chain and settlement via the Lightning Network. We enable conversion to and from Bitcoin, either automatically, after funds have been received. We enable bank transfers by working with bank partners, so we can transfer local currency to the destination bank account, normally in T+1 days. And we also facilitate Bitcoin custody, so where merchants are accepting Bitcoin and keeping Bitcoin as their currency, we offer enterprise-grade custody, again, just to make sure that the funds are safe. OpenNode supports a complete payment and settlement stack. So in the partnership with Deskerra, we're really focused on accepting Bitcoin for payment of invoices. We also support e-commerce payments, in-person payments. We work with businesses to facilitate Bitcoin payouts, either mass payouts or one-off. And from a settlement perspective, we support major currencies like USD, Euro, GBP, Australian dollar. Split settlement, which allows merchants to decide to keep, for example, for any single transaction, maybe you want 80% of your settlement to be in the form of euros, 20% in the form of Bitcoin. That's a ratio that merchants and businesses can set. And as I mentioned, we also support automatic conversion. Important to note that OpenNode's checkout is compatible with every Bitcoin and Lightning wallet. So any wallet developers who are following the core Bitcoin protocols and the requirements related to generating QR codes are compatible with our checkout. So as I mentioned, OpenNode supports conversion to major settlement currencies. When businesses accept Bitcoin, but automatically convert to local currency at the time of the transaction, they are not actually holding Bitcoin at any point in time. So there are no regulatory considerations, there are no tax implications. The conversion to local currency is done prior to the business receiving those funds. And as I mentioned, split settlement between Bitcoin and local currency can allow businesses to keep some of the funds in local currency and some of the funds in Bitcoin. This flexibility when it comes to conversion and settlement allows businesses to avoid or control the exposure to Bitcoin, because as we know, the price of Bitcoin relative to major currencies has a tendency to fluctuate. In the last 10 to 12 years, that fluctuation has been, from a price standpoint, really up and to the right. But from a day-to-day standpoint, it can be difficult for businesses to feel like they can manage their businesses and the costs that arise from doing business while keeping a majority of funds in Bitcoin. So what we find at OpenNode is when we start working with businesses, many of them kind of by default automatically convert to local currency. Over time, though, as businesses really see the benefits of accepting Bitcoin payments and get a little bit more comfortable with Bitcoin and follow the price movements, we see that they start to allocate some of those funds and keep them, retain them in Bitcoin.
Wonderful. I think that explained that. I think I have a better understanding of what you mentioned when you said that we can use it using the preferred currency, right? So before we go ahead, I think there are a few questions that have popped up. So would you mind going through that now?
No, let's do it.
All right, wonderful. So let me pop the first question here. It is from Nitin Jadhav. That why is it banned in India? So maybe I'll try to answer that, and you can pitch in as well, Julie. So the thing with Bitcoin, Nitin, is that Bitcoin is still at an evolutionary stage. The governments across the world are still forming regulations around the usage of Bitcoin as a currency, and that is one of the reasons why nobody wants to, kind of push the regulation through or say that okay, it is legal or illegal or whatever, right? It is just a question of a new technology that is here, which the governments have not gotten around to fully documenting, putting in the regulatory framework around it. Plus, obviously, it is something that that is not within the direct control, for example, of RBI or other central banking institutions at this point of time, at least. So there are a few hesitancies when it comes from the government, but over the world, right? You can still transact in Bitcoins. You can buy Bitcoins. You can use Bitcoins for your business for overseas transactions. Julie, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Saurabh. I think the current regulatory status of Bitcoin in India is that a ban was discussed in 2018, but overturned in 2019. And at the moment, you're exactly right. The kind of current status in India is that exchanges are allowed to operate. There is inconsistent support of bridging to the traditional banking sector, but there seems to have been an evolution in thinking where India is really monitoring cryptocurrencies to understand how it will formulate its regulations in the future.
Right. Then the next question is from Kwa. I wonder if Bitcoin really is a currency, given its value fluctuates like crazy. So, Julie, would you like to hear?
Sure. Yes. So there are a few things that allow a currency to be considered currency. I think two of the aspects that that matter when we think about a medium of exchange is, number one, some of the properties we talked about before: scarcity, the ability to transmit, the ability to store, the ability to exchange. I think here what's being referenced is the ability to use Bitcoin as a unit of account. And today, across the world, countries are using the currencies that they are used to, their major local currencies, to determine pricing. It's also worth noting that, it's not easy to create a new currency based on a new technology. After 12 years, what we have seen is that Bitcoin price volatility is diminishing, but the current volatility is necessary as adoption grows. It's just a function of the market discovering a new currency and pricing it according to market sentiment, but also, it's worth noting that day to day, from an OpenNode perspective and from the perspective of our businesses, we can protect against that volatility. And so long as the core properties of Bitcoin don't change, the price for us is really secondary. What is foremost in our minds is ensuring that we can continue to deliver the utility of the technology.
Understood. Koa, I think, I hope you have your answer. Then we have the next question popping on the screen now. It's from Prashant Menon. Is this similar to any other payment gateway like BillDesk or CC Avenue?
I'm not totally familiar with those providers. What I would say is OpenNode considers that we're providing access to Bitcoin as a decentralized payment network. So in that sense, you can think of us as maybe more like Stripe from the perspective of simplifying and abstracting complexity from businesses who want to use Bitcoin payments. And then instead of facilitating transactions and submitting them to a centralized network like MasterCard or American Express, we're actually processing transactions over a decentralized network that doesn't have a centralized operator.
Right. So I think where the question was coming from was that will it take, Prashant, I think, has clarified his question as well. So let me just pop that here as well. So what he's trying to ask, I believe, is that if I am a Deskerra user and I'm raising an invoice, then when I send that invoice over to my user, then what will they go through? And the answer is that yes, from that person's perspective, right? When the invoice goes to their customer and the customer opens the invoice, they will see a link that will allow them to go to a payment page, and that payment page will allow them to pay using Bitcoins, right? That's the whole. So from the user perspective, it's going to be as simple as that. There are obviously multiple operations that are running, in the background that have to be done. You have to get the currency exchange. You have to get the exchange rate. You have to do the transaction. Then she mentioned, we have to send that to the blockchain. There are, it has to pass through to the Lightning network and so on. So there are multiple things, but all of that is encapsulated from the end user. For them, it is an invoice has been generated. It has got a payment link, and that payment link can be used to pay. And I believe that in addition to the payment link, we also have the option to add a QR code. So I can just take a picture of. I can use my camera to scan the QR code and just pay using that as well. Exactly. So there are multiple. So from an end user perspective, it's going to be super simple. You're not. In fact, it's like if you're doing a multi-currency transaction, right, for any invoice, it's like just choosing a different currency for your transaction. Instead of creating your invoice in USD, you're creating it in BTC, and then you're sending that over. So from a user perspective, it's super simple.
That's right.
Great. There is a question here from Satoshi. Is the Lightning network available in India?
The answer is yeah. Just like the internet is available everywhere. The access to the Bitcoin payment network and the Lightning network are available and accessible everywhere. Not exactly sure where the Lightning network nodes are physically located throughout the world. I think there is a map that you can look up online, but the short answer is yes.
Wonderful. I hope that answers your question, Satoshi. Then there are a couple of interesting questions here. One is from Sandeep. What do you think? What the Bitcoin prices are going to be after 10 years?
You know what? As long as it's not zero, and kind of as I said before, as long as none of the core properties of Bitcoin change, as long as the Bitcoin blockchain is not hacked, as long as security is not compromised, as long as blocks continue to be mined, the price to me is secondary, because actually what is happening in the meantime is that every transaction processed using Bitcoin and Lightning is saving businesses millions of dollars in fees otherwise paid to banks and payment networks.
That's an interesting point that you brought up, which is basically, it's a very big benefit for businesses, because there are, yeah, I believe that, that's a question that people have, that, okay, if I use Bitcoin for business transactions, how does it help? Why is it better than cash? And what kind of savings can I, do by not having to pay as much admin fees or payment fees, etc. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. A couple of components that we touched on before, the economics. The economic benefits are really driven off of three main things. One, a very low transaction processing cost, which is structured in a way that there's no pyramid scheme of everybody adding transaction fees. So for example, businesses who process directly through OpenNode will pay a 1% processing fee, same as businesses accepting Bitcoin through Deskerra. So we're not looking for everyone to add their fees and then leave businesses holding the big bag of expenses. It's 1%. It's global, and when OpenNode partners with technology providers, platforms, payroll providers, small business software companies, we ensure that the end user continues to pay 1%. That's the first thing. The second thing is instant settlement, especially for small businesses, we know solves a huge problem, which has less to do with the cost of transactions and more to do with how long it takes for them to settle. So in many cases, businesses will wait days, sometimes weeks, for funds to be received. And then thirdly, as I mentioned before, these transactions there is no fraud. So merchants do not need to worry about post-transaction impacts to revenue. No fraud, no chargebacks. The transactions are final.
Understood. So coming back to the question that got us started, that there is an anecdote actually about this, Sandeep. So there was a World of Warcraft competition which was held about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I think. And the first person, the person who came first in the World of Warcraft competition, World of Warcraft is a game, right? And there are like e-gaming competitions that keep happening there. And the person who got the first prize got, I think, $2,000. And the person who got the 8th prize got like 1 Bitcoin. So that person who had that 1 Bitcoin 8 years ago has got hundreds of thousands today. So it's a very brave person who would come out and say exactly that where the prize is going to be after 10 years. As I said, there are still many things, and as Julie mentioned, there are still some things that still need to be. It's still at an early stage, right, in terms of getting more stability, but it is moving towards a stable curve. Is what we have. Is what we can say with some confidence right now. Okay, so let's continue with the presentation, and we'll come back to some of the other questions after we have gone through that. So please hang on, and we will be coming to more questions very soon.
Sounds good, Saurabh. So the next thing I just wanted to show you guys is the business dashboard that OpenNode makes available to users. In our dashboard, you can view your wallet balances, your payment activity summary, detailed activity. You can also download transaction details in CSV format in order to upload data to whatever tools you're using to manage your business. And we also wanted to just quickly run through the steps of how easy it is to connect OpenNode to your Deskerra account in order to accept Bitcoin as a payment method for Deskerra invoices. The first step is to set up an OpenNode account. Very easy to start that process. Once you complete OpenNode KYC and KYB, you can download the ePayments app from the Deskerra marketplace. Within that app, you have the choice of several payment providers. If you select OpenNode, you can then connect your Deskerra account and connect your OpenNode account by generating an API key from the OpenNode dashboard and pasting it in to where you are prompted to input it on the Deskerra site. Copy, paste, connect, and you're ready to send an invoice that accepts Bitcoin as a payment method.
So, we have a video that shows you how this entire process is done. So maybe we can quickly go through that. Okay, it's a short video. So let's watch that now. Okay, let me put it here on the screen and run it. All right. So when you are on the Deskerra dashboard here, right, then obviously you would want to go into books first, because that is where all your financial transactions are going to be. And then what you can do is go to ePayments and connect OpenNode. So this is what Julie showed her in her slide as well, right? Once you are here, I mean, there are multiple payment options here. I mean, for India, you will have Paytm and Razorpay also. For other countries, there is like Veeam, Stripe, PayPal, and so on. And there is OpenNode available globally, of course. So all you have to do is connect your OpenNode account here. And when you click on Connect Account, then it will ask you to authenticate yourself. And it will ask for the API access key. This API access key can be obtained by going to the developer section, and you can use the key that is generated here. So it's a good practice to add a label to your key. And once you have the key, you can copy it and you can paste it in the right place. Yeah, that's it. And that will connect your Deskerra account to your OpenNode account. Please make sure that you have a Deskerra account and an OpenNode account before you try to connect them, because you will need to authenticate both. And once it is connected, you will see the list of all the invoices that you have generated earlier. And you can then choose to send it using any of your connected payment gateways, including OpenNode. So we have the send button here and the list of the invoices, and you can choose the send action. So all the information about the invoice is going to come from Deskerra. So everything, like the email address, the invoice number, the amount, etc., and everything. And you can also choose to change the user's email address on this screen as well if you want to send it to a different one. And that's it. I mean, you click on send and then it goes through. You can also share this through other means. You can send a follow-up email. You can share a snippet, or you can share the link for the payment with your customer. So all the details here, as you see, are coming from Deskerra, including the amount of the invoice, etc., and so on. And then this link is where the user would go and they would pay it. And once the payment is done, the payment is updated automatically in Deskerra. So you don't need to do anything else. You just need to make sure that it goes out, and then the user clicks on it, they do the payment, and that's it. And this is how they would your customer would see the invoice being generated, and they can just click on the make payment button. So here the payment can be done in BTC. As you can see, there is a QR code that you can use. And there are two options, which is on-chain and Lightning, both of which were explained by Julie. And yeah, that is that. So that's how we do the payments in Deskerra books and OpenNode together, how they come together to work, for sharing the details of payment and getting all the, basically making the entire process from quotation to invoicing to sending and receiving the payment. Everything is seamless. You just need to, if you are the business owner, you just need to create your invoice, send it after having connected OpenNode, and then your customer will just go ahead and pay it. And once the payment is done, the payment data is sent back to Deskerra, and all the journal entries are updated automatically. The payment record is created with the appropriate date and the currency and the exchange and everything. And all of this information is being shared by OpenNode with us, right? The exchange rate and the number of BTC used, and your profit and loss statement and income statement and balance sheet and cash flow, and all of that is updated in real time. So that's how you connect Deskerra and OpenNode. So back to you, Julie. Thank you so much for allowing me to show that.
No, that was awesome, Saurabh. And the kind of to dovetail off of that, we can just quickly look at what happens to the Bitcoin as part of the payment flow. So once the BTC payment is initiated, the Bitcoin is incoming to OpenNode. The little storefront there is the business that has determined whether or not they want to receive Bitcoin or local currency. OpenNode processes and settles the payment in whatever way the merchant has determined. And those funds temporarily are housed in an account associated with OpenNode, either the business's bank account associated with OpenNode or the Bitcoin account associated with OpenNode. And the last step is a transfer of fiat or Bitcoin to the destination bank account or BTC wallet. And again, all of those things are determined and initiated by businesses and executed by us on your behalf.
Wonderful.
Two last things to mention. OpenNode is a US registered money service business. We work with licensed bank, exchange, and processing partners to convert to and from Bitcoin and to transfer funds in the way that we have described. We are compliant with AML and ATF regulations. We are also following developments very closely because the regulatory space, as you guys have seen, is evolving. And finally, just to mention, we process payments for thousands of businesses across 100 plus countries. As I mentioned before, in some cases, we process for businesses directly. In many cases, we work with partners like Deskerra to make Bitcoin payment processing available. So we also work with partners like Shopify and BigCommerce to enable businesses.
Right. In fact, yeah, so if I have a Shopify store, then I can connect my Shopify store to Deskerra, and then connect Deskerra to OpenNode, and have my Shopify connected to OpenNode as well. And this entire flow will work seamlessly. So my accounting, invoicing, financing, order management, and e-commerce, everything is kind of aligned together here, with the entire ecosystem connected. So that's awesome.
Exactly. And that's definitely a huge strategy for us, is to bring that enablement in a very simple way through partners like Deskerra, to all the platforms that businesses are already using to operate their businesses.
All right. So let's go through some more questions here. There is a question from Antonio Lozano. It's what is the minimum Bitcoin to buy?
So OpenNode doesn't sell Bitcoin, but in terms of transaction amounts, the other thing about Bitcoin that's pretty cool is that Bitcoin can enable microtransactions, so fractions of a cent, and we also handle huge transaction amounts. So in that sense, the Bitcoin payment rail has been tested. That whole spectrum of transaction values has been tested.
All right. So basically, there is no minimum amount, right, that you can buy, even though obviously the Deskera OpenNode connection is not meant for buying Bitcoin, but it is more for doing financial transactions using Bitcoin. And earlier, Prashant Menon had asked a question, and he's saying that I think I got my answer. So yeah, thank you for confirming, Prashant. And Prashant Mujwar is saying, I don't think there's any bans in India, which I think Julie addressed earlier, that there are no current bans. The ban was overturned, but yes, there are still some regulatory things that the government is still working on in order to have better control on Bitcoin. There is a question from Madhuvanti. So billing in Bitcoin means it will work like a credit system instead of instant payment by the customer.
I guess I would say billing in Bitcoin means Bitcoin can be accepted as a method of payment for an invoice, and that method of payment settles instantly and is credited instantly to your OpenNode account if the Lightning Network is used. If the payment comes through on chain, it will take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour to settle.
Understood. So it is not just like a credit system. I mean, it is like getting
digital cash.
Yeah. You are getting digital currency or digital cash in your OpenNode account as soon as the invoice is paid. And then what you choose to do with that is completely up to you. It's like any other currency, right? I mean, for example, if I buy, so let's say that I'm operating my business in India, but my customer pays me in USD, then that USD comes and sits in my USD account. Now I can choose to convert that USD to an INR, or I can choose to keep it as USD, and I can buy more stuff using that USD. So that's how Bitcoin also is, that you can accept your payment in Bitcoin, then it sits in your OpenNode account as Bitcoin. Then you can choose to convert it to a different currency of your choice if you want to, or you can do other transactions with that Bitcoin. So it's just like any other currency that you would choose. Am I correct in saying that, Julie?
Exactly right. And I think you touch on something really important, which is the Bitcoin as a digital asset has grabbed most of the headlines in the last couple of years based on the price action and numerous other things that the press focus on when it comes to Bitcoin. But at OpenNode, we are focused on enabling exactly what you describe, which we call growing the Bitcoin economy. And that means more than a store of value, more than a digital asset, Bitcoin is the best way to transact in the digital era.
Understood. Thank you so much for that. And here is a question that many people have, that is investment in Bitcoin safe, or is doing transaction in Bitcoin safe?
So I guess I have to do the whole, like, please, this is not investment advice. I'm not an advisor in any capacity. Investment in Bitcoin is a decision that every person needs to make for themselves based on research. So that's really all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, I can maybe. I mean, obviously, the disclaimer goes that this is not an investment advice, and you will need to. I mean, there are risks, etc., associated. So please take that into consideration. But from a technological perspective, right? I mean, I mean, any transactions that are happening on the blockchain are immutable, right? So in terms of safety, in terms of accountability, in terms of audit, etc., it's all there. It's all logged in. It cannot be changed. It cannot be transformed. So it's pretty secure, right? I mean, nobody can, for example, go and change a transaction later on by mistake or intentionally. And there is a high level of cyber security, that is built around that in terms of the immutability of the very nature of blockchains.
That's absolutely right. And I think maybe a point that we can make here is that OpenNode is a Bitcoin only payment processor. So as you guys will know, there are many other cryptocurrencies in the world. We support Bitcoin because we believe it is the safest, most secure, most proven, most decentralized cryptocurrency. It was the first, and we think it's the best. It's definitely, every day that goes by, it is by far the most mature, the most valuable, and the most proven.
Agreed. Then the next comment here is from Tess Sambas. They're saying good afternoon. So yeah, good afternoon back to you. Okay, then Prashant Majwar has a comment that it's not a currency; it's a store of value. So it depends on how you use it, right? So to give you an example, Prashant, when Tesla bought a lot of Bitcoin, I mean, very recently, right? When they bought it, they put it as an asset. So that was like buying it as an asset. But they also allowed for users to pay for Tesla cars using Bitcoins. And that is where Bitcoin is not an asset, but it's a transactional currency. So it can be used as both. Julie, you want to say something on that?
Yeah, I mean that's right. It can be both, and I think what's interesting about it having value as both a store of value and a currency is that many businesses want to accept Bitcoin because they want to earn Bitcoin and keep Bitcoin. So it's really the first kind of monetary instrument that allows that direct crossover of earning and storing as an investment. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I mean, this goes for any currency, right? I mean, so for example, recently, I mean, every time any currency devalues, because there is always going to be some fluctuation, right? So for example, let's say I had a lot of USD and I was working in India, right? Then if I hold on to my USD, then the value of that USD automatically keeps going up. So I'm treating it as an asset. I'm not treating it as currency, but I have the option to use it as currency for any transaction that I want to do as well. So I mean, it's the same thing. It's not a lot different from using any other currency as a store, because there are currencies that are used as stores also by certain investors, right?
That's exactly right. The one notable difference between Bitcoin and probably most fiat currencies is that it is not beholden to individual governmental monetary policy. So Bitcoin is capped at 21 million. And in a world where many governments are printing money and creating actually a fair amount of inflation on the ground, one of the benefits of Bitcoin is that it is designed to be not only resistant to inflation, but deflationary.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point that you mentioned. I mean, it is resistant to both inflation and deflation because it is, by the very nature of its, of its existence and its creation, right? I mean, you kind of already have those controls in place. All right. There is a question Though I wait, where did it go? Uh, uh, uh. Okay, so there's a question from Richa: which one to hold, Ethereum or Bitcoin? Probably not the right forum to answer that.
Probably not.
Yeah, because we are talking primarily about Bitcoin in this, right? But yeah, Rich, you can DM either me or Julie on LinkedIn or somewhere else, and we'll be glad to have a discussion on that. But yeah, today's discussion is more on Bitcoin and Bitcoin for business. There are obviously good points for both Ethereum and Bitcoin, and if you go to any Reddit forum, you will find a lot of heated discussion on whether you should go for Bitcoin or Ethereum, or there is even Dogecoin now. There are lots of followers, and each one of them has their own fan base depending on who you want to listen to. In terms of overall, I think the big winner here is cryptocurrency in general, right? If you're investing in crypto today, right, or if you had invested in crypto earlier, or if you're planning to eventually move to a crypto-based business, then that is, I believe, a move in the right direction, because that is going to be a part of our future. Will it eliminate all currency? It's too early to say, right? Is it only going to be Bitcoin standing, at the end of the era? We don't know today, right? But one thing is for sure, that it's going to be there, right? And it's going to become a bigger part of our daily lives, of our business lives. Today, who would have thought, for example, 10 years ago, that every small stall will have a QR code where you can just go and tap and pay, right? It would have been fanciful, but today it's a reality. Every single shop that you go, big, small, you have those kind of options. So the future is still being written, of course, right? It's not set. That's what I would like you to keep in mind, right? That crypto is the way forward, and Bitcoin, as Julie mentioned earlier, is the most mature of all of the existing crypto options. Uh, but in fact, I would be interested to know, Julie, though, that in future will OpenNode support Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies as well?
At this stage, we have no plans to support other cryptocurrencies. We're really focused on helping to build the world's next digital monetary network. And we believe at this time that Bitcoin has the best shot at becoming the world's global digital currency.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Nima Lama here. When do you think RBI is going to regularize or allow Bitcoin transactions? Is it going to be 2 to 5 years?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think India allows Bitcoin transactions today in terms of more formal support and more formal guidance. It's difficult to say, especially with kind of the ups and downs of the last couple of years. What I think is clear is that this is not going away. It can't be banned. It can't be outlawed. It's not going anywhere. So it's in every government's best interest to create clarity for users, people, and businesses, so that we can all safely use these, use Bitcoin specifically to transact.
Right. Then there's a question from Sarthak. Can it be connected with the mobile app you have? Absolutely, yes. So Deskerra has a mobile app, right? And you can create payments. You can create invoices there. And if you have your OpenNode connected to Deskerra, then you will be able to just insert the payment link, irrespective of whether you are sending the invoice from the mobile app or from the web application. It does not make a difference. So yeah, I mean, if you have it connected, you can use either the mobile app or the web application to do it.
Here's an interesting question from Satoshi, the real Satoshi, I wonder. What if I directly accept Bitcoin from customers? I can still sell and do stuff with it. What's the advantage of using Deskera and OpenNode? And that's a great question. I think what I can say from an OpenNode perspective is that our entire focus is payment infrastructure. Our entire focus is payment reliability. And so there is the possibility of payment exceptions, just like in any network. We manage those for you. We ensure the reliability and success of, the large majority of payments. And I think that's more difficult when you're doing transfers, individual transfers. You sort of have to monitor that yourself. You have to make sure that you are that you're creating the payment request correctly, that the sender knows what to do. So if you have the expertise to do that, and it's not a high volume business, by all means, of course, feel free to do that. But with partners like Deskerra and OpenNode, who abstract the complexity and who just ensure the success of the transactional system, that would be the main advantage, I think.
Right. And just to add to that, right, I mean, people have been collecting money through different ways, from their customers for a very long time, right? I mean, it's not always online. Online is obviously the future, and crypto is the future. I mean, as far as we can see today, right? But you still would need something like Deskerra to make sure that you're recording the financial transaction. I mean, you have to record your financial transaction in your accounting software. If you're not doing that, then that can create audit problems and other issues as well. So obviously, I mean, you still need to record it. And what we are doing is that we have brought together Deskera and OpenNode to work seamlessly so that you don't have to do it manually. I mean, there is no manual effort involved anymore. All the payment, etc., it's being done completely online, and it's getting recorded automatically back into Deskera. So you don't have to do it manually. And that is the advantage that you have of using Deskera and OpenNode together, instead of having to do it. I mean, you would go and obviously, I mean, in addition to the advantages that you would have by using OpenNode, which will manage all your risks, etc., to a certain extent, right? You also are cutting down on a lot of manual work by using the integration and the two applications together. And Kevin is saying, great to see BTC can be used with Deskera. Thank you, Kevin. We also have Vikesh. This is so awesome. We see Bitcoin integration in Deskera. Future of payments. Completely agree with you, Vikesh. And Kevin is just giving a quick update to everybody that it's not an investment company. So please stay away from that. Thank you, Kevin. While we will try to answer any of the questions, but yeah, I mean, it's an important point to keep in mind. And this is the same question from Satoshi. It has been explained a little bit more, and I think we answered that earlier. And Vikesh is asking, gold or Bitcoin, what should we purchase for future investment? My answer is to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, that's always sage advice. But again, investment advice, right? I mean, all the disclaimers go in there. So end of the day, I mean, you have to look at what your risk appetite is and then, go with that. I hope that answers your question, Vikesh. Then, Kevin, will Deskerra payments be recorded on the blockchain? So, Julie, would you like to take that?
Sure. The answer is yes. Ultimately, a Bitcoin payment is a Bitcoin payment. And whether it is processed on chain, in which case it's recorded on the blockchain within 10 minutes to an hour, or whether it's processed on the Lightning Network, in which case it's retroactively recorded, it will be recorded.
Awesome. Hope that answers your question. And then there is a question from Nirav. In OpenNode form, they ask for company registration number. I couldn't find one in my LLC registration, so I have inserted my EIN number. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for registering, Nirav. Any issues with your KYC, and our support guys will reach out to you. So that seems fine. Let's see what happens. And if you want to get a more timely answer, you can send a message to support@opennode.com or contact our guys through the intercom widget on the homepage of our website.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julie. Let's move on to the next question, which is from Rakshit. Does OpenNode charge anything for these transactions, or is it free?
We charge 1%. So the incoming payment, we levy the fee on that, and 99% of the incoming payment is therefore instantly settled to your account, either in Bitcoin or local currency.
And how does that compare with typical credit card, or if you're using Stripe or PayPal or any other?
Yeah, so the rates are different throughout the world, but on average, especially small businesses who don't get the high volume discounts of like Amazon, we're talking 3 or 4% for domestic transactions, more for transactions that are initiated with foreign cards. So it's at least a 2 to 3% savings. Not to mention that you receive your funds immediately, as opposed to waiting at least 1 or 2 days, sometimes much more.
All right. And with OpenNode and with Lightning, you will get it pretty much immediately, right?
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julie, for answering that. And Antonio is asking if Bitcoin is same as a money changer. So
I'm not sure I understand the question.
maybe Antonio, if you could, just kind of elaborate a little bit more on the question, then we can come back to it. Just put it in the comments. Vikesh is cheekily asking, how many Bitcoins do you have? Confidential information, Vikesh. We are not going to be.
I can answer that, no problem. Not enough. Not enough.
Okay. All right. Not enough. Yeah, that's a good answer. So then Forever Fit Can, how we can be a part of Deskerra, where we can learn more about Bitcoin and what's our role in Deskerra. So you can just drop an email to hello@deskerra.com. Just drop us an email if you want to be a part of the Deskerra ecosystem. I'll be glad to get in touch with you. I think it's the same question is from Gaurav Singh. So yeah, just write to hello@deskerra.com, and I'll be glad to speak with you and take things forward. Okay, so Rakshit is asking if we can use OpenNode only for business or for personal use as well.
That's a great question. OpenNode is designed for businesses, but we are just, our platform supports businesses of any size. So we definitely have sole proprietors, for example, using OpenNode to accept payments. We have very, very small micro merchants. That's pretty much synonymous with personal, So as long as there is a kind of a payment acceptance or a payout need, it's really designed for businesses, and that's because we're not really a consumer wallet. But when you say personal use, many of our users are individuals.
All right, thank you. Then Sarthak is asking that if I have a mobile application of my own, and I want to enable payments via Bitcoin from users, can OpenNode and Deskerra enable that? The short answer is yes. We have APIs that are available. I mean, so you can create an app and connect it to Deskerra through APIs, and using those APIs, as long as you have set up, your OpenNode account and Deskerra account, you can just use the APIs to connect to your app, and then use that to do transactions from your own customized interface. It could be on web, it could be on mobile, any device. I mean, you just need to make sure you're connected to our APIs. Obviously there is a due process there, so you have to get the API keys, and you have to submit the application to our Deskerra app store. And the best part is that if it is approved, it will be available on our Deskerra app store, and others can come and use it also, so you can actually monetize your app quite easily from the app store directly as well. So Satoshi is saying that, yes, think of me as the real Satoshi. So, all right. And thank you for, it's a great start. Let's take it from here. Wonderful. Yeah, that's the plan. Then there's a question from Antonio. If a customer uses Bitcoin as payment transaction, is there a hidden charge for it?
That's a good question. Payers who pay in Bitcoin on the basis of prices that are quoted in euro or dollars or any other currency will pay. We don't think of it as a hidden charge. It's an implicit cost, which is the exchange spread on the currency conversion. That's typically a maximum of 1%, usually more like 0.5%. But that compensates the exchange for the risk of converting the transaction on behalf of the payer.
All right. Thank you for that, Julie. And here's a question from Prashant. How will Deskerra clients using this platform ward off any potential legal implications in a country that doesn't deem it to be illegal? When you say it, I assume you're talking about Bitcoin. So, how many countries there are, Julie, where it's not considered legal to transact in Bitcoins?
I mean, there are very few. Probably China would be at the top of the list of countries where people believe Bitcoin to now be quote unquote illegal, but it's not. There's no sort of blanket ban. Typically, there's a limitation or prohibition of the activities associated with Bitcoin. So recently in China, for example, there was a crackdown on the miners, or the people who operate the computers that create Bitcoins and validate Bitcoin transactions. What I would say right now is that OpenNode as a money services business is compliant with the regulations that govern payment providers, and that includes sanctioned countries, AML, ATF, as we mentioned before. So when we onboard businesses, we ensure that they are not operating in a territory that is sanctioned. But when it comes to Bitcoin itself, for all intents and purposes, there is nowhere that it's not legal, because even in China, going back to that example, there are still exchanges operating in the market.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Prashant, I hope that answers your question. And then I think Antonio came back. So money changer here means changing foreign currency to local currency.
I think the question might be whether OpenNode is an exchange, and if that is the question, I would say we are not. We work with exchanges, we partner with exchanges to be able to deliver our payment solutions.
All right, thank you. I have no idea what this means. Cardano Ada to the moon. Maybe. Okay, so I'll skip over. And here is a message from Crypto Patshala that I am into crypto based network marketing venture and we need to exchange INR to crypto from known as well as unknown people. So, how can OpenNode help in doing this?
We can't. We're not an exchange.
So basically, what OpenNode is doing is that you have a business transaction, right? I mean, if there is a transaction, then that transaction is getting fulfilled by payment through OpenNode, or you can make payment from OpenNode for a business transaction that has already happened for your vendor or supplier. So it's about making things for business. I mean, yeah, I mean, exchange is not something that Deskerra or OpenNode would be going into. Okay. Then Kevin is asking if we can accept BTC payments for e-commerce websites. I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe one thing we didn't really touch on was so OpenNode has a range of solutions for accepting payments. Some of them are no-code solutions, like you can generate a link or a button. We also offer hosted checkout, where you redirect to us for payment, and then we redirect back to the e-commerce site, all the way to the API integration, which is the work that Deskerra did to enable Bitcoin payments from within their platform. So there are a range of solutions. You can find them all on our website.
Right. Thank you. Then here is a note from Daniel. How I wish I was influential online. So when I am expecting BTC payment, I'll tweet to pull down price, etc. Daniel, actually, it's easier than you think. All you have to do is start a multi-million dollar payment company, then sell it off, then start electrical vehicle company, have a company that is making space rockets, and then once you have that, then you can quite easily, just move the prices up and down as and when you feel like it.
Or make a really good TikTok video, one or the other.
That also works, yes. All right, so here is Prashant saying, yes, it did. Thank you, Prashant. I'm glad we were able to answer your question. And Antonio is here. Thank you very much for answering my question as well. You're welcome, Antonio. It's our pleasure. And with that, I don't see any other questions. So if you have any questions, just drop us a note. You have our email address. You have this webinar here available, so you can always just put in your questions in your chat or write to us at hello@deskerra.com. If you want to know more about how to use Deskerra, how to use OpenNode, just drop us a line. Glad to answer any questions whatsoever. All right. Make sure you visit opennode.com and deskerra.com to learn more about Deskerra and OpenNode if you are not aware of us already. Right. And Julie, what any parting notes from you?
No, just thank you, Saurabh, and thank you to the folks who attended. Really appreciate your time to hear about OpenNode and Bitcoin payments. And I was dreading this, but it was really not as bad as I thought. So I'm very happy about that, Saurabh. I'm going to have a really good day.
Thank you. You have been a wonderful co-host today. And everybody, thank you again for attending today's session. And there were some interesting comments and questions. And I hope all of you have a better understanding of using Bitcoin for your business and the advantages that it carries for your business. And with that, I'll bid you all adieu. And all of you have a great day and a great week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you.